listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest of all.
Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one.
Good afternoon, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast on this Monday, August the 5th. I am your host, Mike Oliva, and we're going to break down all the news happening in the world of the Miami Dolphins today. We got Tim Bowens news. Yes, Tim Bowens news. We got some information on Tyreek Hill's restructured contract. We got the first depth chart of the season released, and we have all the notes from practice and everything that took place on the practice field. But before we get to any of that, today's show is brought to you by Caneswear. Caneswear is the place to go for officially licensed apparel for the Miami Dolphins, the Miami Heat, the Hurricanes, your Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, and all of the professional and college teams in South Florida. Looking for the latest jersey, a gift, or the newest hat to hit the market of your favorite South Florida team? Check out Caneswear for their overwhelming selection of sports apparel. Located at 2655 South University Drive in Davie, Florida, Caneswear has it all. Not in South Florida? Don't worry. Visit Caneswear.com to shop the inventory from the comfort of your home. And yes, they ship internationally as well. Caneswear.com is the spot that Miami fans shop. That's Caneswear.com. Caneswear.com. And before we get to the news, a little bit of housekeeping. We had a big announcement today here at DolphinsTalk.com. For those of you who aren't on social media, and if you might have missed it on our social media channels, we debuted our Dolphins Talk Extra platform. And you're probably asking, what's Dolphins Talk Extra and how is it any different than DolphinsTalk.com? Dolphins Talk Extra is our Patreon service that we released this morning. You can go to the website, patreon.com/DolphinsTalk and here's the deal, just so there's no confusion. All the podcasts you listen to now, the shows I do, the shows I do with Ian Berger, Marissa, Josh and Aaron, the post-game show, the pre-game show, myself and Robert Burns. Those shows are free and they will continue to be free. The free shows are going no place. All the articles you read at DolphinsTalk.com will continue to be free. They are going no place. Dolphins Talk Extra is bonus content, quote-unquote extra content, and it's going to be interactive content. So for as low as $3 a month, we're going to have some bonus shows, extra shows, hence the name extra, that you can watch behind a paywall. Yes. And we also have a $5 tier as well, but that's it. $3 a month, $5 a month, not a ton of money. And again, if you don't want to pay, we understand the free stuff ain't going nowhere. The free stuff's always going to be here. But if you want more Dolphins content and some of the content behind, on our Patreon service here behind the paywall is going to be non-Dolphins, a little fun. If we get enough people who want to hear me do a show about pro wrestling, I'll do a show about pro wrestling. If there's a big movie out or a TV show like The Bear, and we got enough people want to hear us do a show about that, we'll do a show about that. So yes, it's Miami Dolphins centric. And we're also going to do like happy hour shows where if you sign up for this and pay your little $3 a month or $5 a month and you join us, you can like once or twice a month, all depending on, how many people sign up and how many people want to do this. Josh, Aaron, and myself will jump on a Zoom. You can join us on a Zoom and talk and ask us anything you want. We'll talk Miami Dolphins football. We'll answer all your questions. You don't have to be about the Miami Dolphins. So we're going to do happy hour shows where, we'll get on multiple fans at the same time. And, fans can talk to each other, talk to us. We're going to do live watch-alongs. So in a game, you want to come on with me in the first quarter of a game. As the game's going on, we can talk about, we got 3rd and 8 here. What do you think they should do? Oh, they did this. So we're going to do watch-alongs that are going to be interactive. We're going to do happy hour shows that are going to be interactive. We got fantasy contests, fantasy football, pick'em contests, survivor pools. You sign up for Dolphins Talk Extra. If you want to play, you're automatically entered. We're going to have really cool prizes like stuff from FOCO, those bobblehead dolls that everyone loves so much, and some other prizes. So Dolphins Talk Extra, it's, We got a $3 tier and a $5 tier. And if you want extra content on the Miami Dolphins and extra content from myself, Josh, and Aaron, sign up and you can be part of our little community, part of our family. There's also a message board that's only for the Patreon subscribers. So on Twitter and stuff, sometimes people send me stuff. I don't see it. I get so many tweets and stuff. If you are on our message board that's behind the paywall, I will respond because I can't miss it. I will see it there. So yeah, it's something we thought about for a while. It's fun. We didn't want to charge too much money because we're trying to be consumer friendly here. So check out Dolphins Talk Extra. If you have any questions on how to sign up or where to go, again, you can always email me at dolphinstalk1977@gmail.com, or you can reach out to me on Twitter at DolphinsTalk there. Okay, let's get into the news of the day. The big news, let's start with some happy news. Miami Dolphins announced early Monday morning that Tim Bowens, former Miami Dolphins great, will be inducted into the Miami Dolphins Ring of Honor on October 27th at halftime when the Dolphins play the Arizona Cardinals. Tim Bowens was a beast when he played for the Dolphins in the 90s. 11 years in Miami, I believe, former first-round pick, NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year his first year in 94. You know, he only played 9 games in college at Ole Miss. It was still a first-round pick. Just the reason Zach Thomas is in the Hall of Fame, because Tim Bowens just ate up 2 blockers on almost, I don't want to say every play, but a lot of plays, and created space for Zach Thomas to do his job and just, you know, make plays in space. So congratulations to Tim Bowens. October 27th, final game of October. Dolphins host Arizona. They will put Tim Bowens in the Ring of Honor. Well deserved there. Some more information came out on Tyreek Hill's contract restructure. I had a show out Saturday about that. If you missed it, go back and listen. I share my thoughts about that whole thing in general, why it's a very good signing and why I think the Miami Dolphins did the smart thing here. We have some more of the numbers. Well, not more. We do have all the numbers now, but some of the big picture takeaways here. This restructure of Tyreek Hill's deal, and it's not a new contract, it's a restructure, now puts the Miami Dolphins today, August 5th, $36 million under the salary cap. That's a lot. I think that's like the 5th most cap space in the NFL right now. So if they want to go out there and sign somebody, they have the money to do it. If they want to restructure extend Javon Holland now and lock him up long term, they have the money to do it. But there's always a but. Right now, the Miami Dolphins are projected to be $44 million over the cap in 2025 after this season. Of course, the 2025 cap hasn't been set yet, but rough estimates, it usually goes up this amount, this percentage each year. And if you factor in that percent, roughly, not exact, roughly, Miami's going to be $44 million over the cap in 2024. So that $36 million, they're probably going to want to roll over as much of it as they can to 2025. So they might spend $2 or $3 million of it if they have to, or $4 million. But they're going to want to roll over, like, let's just say $30 million of it. So then they only have to cut $14 million to get down to the cap by the start of the new league year next year. Or maybe in a perfect world, they roll over all $36 million of it, and then they only have to cut, $8 million to get cap compliant next year. So they're probably going to want to roll over a lot of it. But if they want to extend Holland now, the money's there to do it. If they want to do something with Jaylen Phillips now, which I don't think they will, but I've been wrong, so who knows? The money's there to do it. So just they have cap space. That's what that Tyreek Hill restructure really did. It just opened up a lot of salary cap space for him. Let me see if I can find the numbers quick. I don't want to tie up a lot here, but his cap hit for the next 3 years was I can't find it. Let me see. Let me call it up here. Tyreek Hill contract, and they did put void years in this contract as well. So it's interesting. That's sort of spread out the cap hit. Okay. Here we go. 2024. He's got a cap hit of $18 million. 2025, he's got a cap hit of $31.18 million. 2026, he has a cap hit of $55.286 million. So that $55 million cap hit, which takes up 18.9% of Miami's cap, that will never happen. After 2025, they will probably restructure him again to reduce that number and kick out some of the money and they gave him void years in 2027, 2028, 2029. Meaning, even though Tyreek Hill's not under contract in 2027, 2028, 2029, he will count against the cap 7.9 million, 7.9 million, and 3.1 in 2029. Meaning, those are in there kind of as placeholders because the 2026 $55 million, never going to happen. They'll restructure it and then kick out some of that money to 2027, 2028. So that 7.9 million 2027 will probably go up to like 15, 18 million to reduce that 55 million cap hit in 2026. It might be the same thing in 2028. So that's what's happening here with Tyreek. Essentially 18.326 million this year on the cap, 31.186 million next year on the cap. Those numbers are fine. When we get to 2026, another restructure is going to happen. So that's kind of how the contract was worked with some void years, which makes sense, again, to sort of kick some of the money out in that next restructure after 2025. So overall, as I said on the show on Saturday, again, if you haven't listened, check it out. Good signing for the Dolphins, smart signing for the Dolphins, had to do it. And now they got Tua, Tyreek, and Waddle locked up here for the next 2 or 3 years or so, and that's their Super Bowl window. That's it. Get something done in the next 2 or 3 years. I'm not saying you got to win one. I know that's asking a lot, but at least make a run towards the Super Bowl. Maybe get to an AFC Championship game, win the AFC East a couple times. Not asking too much there. With the talent on this roster that they have assembled and now locked up for the foreseeable future. Late Monday afternoon, Miami released their first depth chart. Not a lot of surprises, I will say. Here's a couple of things that sort of stood out. And I wrote an article about the first two things I'm going to say about the offensive line. Robert Jones starting left guard, Liam Eichenberg starting right guard. So I wrote an article over the weekend. You can check out at the website, DolphinsTalk.com, that Miami's choices for who's going to start at left guard and right guard, there's no open competition. This has already been decided. Robert Jones is starting at left guard. Liam will start at right guard. Isaiah wins on PUP. There's no timetable for when he's going to return. If you're waiting for him, it's like waiting for death. It ain't going to happen. Lester Cotton stinks. And Jack Driscoll, just a guy. Not that these other guys aren't just a guy, but Jack Driscoll, really just a guy. Robert Jones has started 12 games the past 2 years for the Dolphins. There's a level of trust there. Liam Eichenberg has started over 30 games for the Dolphins. He's in a contract year. He'll be motivated. And he did say in the past few days that he feels the most comfortable at right guard. Remind you, Liam was drafted as a right tackle, failed. They moved him to left tackle, failed. They moved him to left guard, failed. They tried him at center, which they never should have done because he had zero experience there. He failed, but he gave it his best in a tough situation, so I'm not going to rip him for that. And he's played right guard at times too, in between all that. So he said he feels the most comfortable at right guard. Put him there. It's a contract year, and hope for the best. Robert Jones at left guard. Again, Robert Jones as a run blocker is a beast. He is that good. As a pass blocker, thoughts and prayers to Tua. He's not any good as a pass blocker, but you got to play the hand you're dealt. There's no offensive lineman out there to be signed. There's nobody left. They're all gone. So Dolphins are going to have to start those 4 names, 2 of them. I'm not counting Win. He can go pound salt for all I care. He ain't here in my book. And that's what it is. So those 2 were listed as the starting right guard, left guard. Smythe was listed as a first-string tight end. I think when we get to week 1 in that game against Jacksonville, that might be Jonnu Smith. But for today, first week of August, in a meaningless depth chart, Smythe is still the first-string tight end. Starting nose tackle, replacing Raekwon Davis. As of right now, Benito Jones. And I think it has to be Jones because Tier Tart has not been good in practice for the first 10 or so days. Tart has been underwhelming. I know he had a sack today, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But, one play here, one play there, one quality day here when you've had like 9 or 10 practices. I'm not going to put you first on the depth chart. So Benito Jones, again, nothing to get excited about, kind of just a guy, marginal NFL player right now is a starting nose tackle for the Dolphins. And an outside linebacker with no Chubb, no Jaylen Phillips. You have Ogbut 1, not a shock, and Quentin Bell, the star of this training camp so far at the other starting outside linebacker. Chop Robinson is second string. Again, I think a lot of that. Look, here's the deal. And again, long way to go. It's only August 5th. This is the first meaningless depth chart. Means nothing. We only care about the last one that comes out at the end of August or the first week of September. Chop as a pass rusher is going to be scary, scary good. He's got the speed, the quickness, that first step. But when it comes to setting the edge and playing the run, that's going to be a major work in progress. So I think, it makes sense to put someone like Quentin Bell, who's bounced around the league a little bit here for a few years, got a little bit more experience. Let him start and be on the field on those, first, second downs, possible running plays. And you want to get the best out of Chop, not overwhelm Chop, not beat down Chop Robinson's confidence where he's getting run over on run plays, and use him at his strength on obvious passing downs. And I think that's probably how they'll start the season, unless, of course, over the next month in the preseason games and joint practices, Chop Robinson improves on playing the run and really steps up his game in that area. Then, yeah, he could pass Quentin Bell and be the starter. Absolutely. But I think it makes more logical sense to put Quentin Bell out there for now as a starter. And it's just an early depth chart. And I think what we'll see, though, when we get to the regular season, the games really count. You're going to use Chop at his strength. Accentuate the strengths, hide the weaknesses. That's what good coaches do. And I think with Chop, you want him out there rushing a quarterback. And if it's like 1st and 10 and the team might be running the ball, well, let's get Chop off the field for this play and put someone out there who has more of a strength at stopping the run. So that's, some of the first thoughts. Everything else, Hill, Waddle, Tua, Aaron Brewer, not a shock. Calais Campbell in the Wilkins spot, Zach Sealer opposite him, Jordan Brooks, Long, Holland, Poyer. I mean, there's no shocks anywhere else. Those are just some of the things. Right guard, left guard, first string tight end, Jones at nose tackle, Quentin Bell at outside linebacker. Other than that, pretty standard to say the least. Okay, so this practice today was open to the public outside, so we don't have to go off the reporters. We had one of our reporters in the stands here watching this thing, taking notes, and I'm going to go off his notes because he was there to watch everything. So, little birdie, as I always like to say, from our site in the stands, and the Monday Miami Dolphins training camp report. But before I get to that, a big shout out to everyone listening at finheaven.com. Everyone go to finheaven.com, the largest Miami Dolphins message board on the internet. Also, a shout out to our friends at the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page, run by the great and talented Carlos Hernandez. If you're on Facebook, please be sure you are part of the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page. And wherever you're listening to this podcast, whether it's Apple Podcast, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Audible, Podchaser, subscribe. We have shows each and every day of the week. Tomorrow night, Tuesday, the great Marissa Marino is joined by Jason Sarnia for a new show. They're going to drop every Tuesday here at the DolphinsTalk.com podcast network. I'll have another practice recap up on Tuesday as well. I'm working on some interviews, getting them lined up. I know Marissa's got a couple lined up that you won't want to miss and stay tuned for. So if you're not a part of the DolphinsTalk.com podcast network, hit that subscribe button. You will get all the shows each and every day, multiple shows someday. No other outlet has you covered when it comes to Miami Dolphins like here at DolphinsTalk.com. All right, the practice recap. Once again, the defense had a better day overall than the offense. And again, not a shock this time of year. Still early August. The defense is usually ahead of the offense. Quentin Bell wore the orange jersey today based off the last practice he had, the best day, Saturday. So congratulations to Quentin Bell for the orange jersey. In this practice, the priority was the running game. So they worked on a lot of running plays, of running game stuff. That was kind of a priority. But here are some of the notes, some of the observations from our man and this guy who was on site for this practice. Skylar Thompson hit Tyreek Hill for about a gain of 10. Skylar Thompson missed Tanner Connor on a long pass. Skylar Thompson hit Jody Fortson for a big gain. Skylar Thompson threw a long ball to Alec Ingold that went incomplete. Anthony Schwartz dropped a Skylar Thompson pass. Mike White hit Willie Snead IV for about 20 to 25 yards on a completion. Ethan Bonner had very good coverage on a deep pass from Tua to Tyreek, but it was a completion, and Ethan Bonner couldn't break it up. Ezekiel Vandenberg hit a nice hit on Jeff Wilson Jr. for a short game. Ezekiel Vandenberg is another name that's kind of stood out. The inside linebacker spot, once everyone gets healthy, which again, Mike McDaniel in his press conference, Jordan Brooks, Anthony Walker, the two linebackers that were brought in this offseason, they're a little banged up, but Mike McDaniel, and they haven't been practicing of late. Mike McDaniel did say, expect to see them back on the practice field sooner rather than later, Jordan Poyer's also missed a few practices in a row. Everyone thought it was a veteran rest day. It seems like he's got a minor thing. No time frame for his return, but it doesn't sound too serious, though. So Vandenberg, he's had a very good camp as well. Someone to keep an eye on. For sure, they will try to stash him on the practice squad, but outside chance to be a sleeper to make the roster. Hit Jeff Wilson for pretty much no gain. Jaylen Wright hit a few carries. That one for about 5 yards each. Tua hit Alec Ingold on a wheel play. Tua got out of the pocket with his legs, sort of extended a play, hit Tyreek Hill. Devon Achane had a 10-yard run. Javon Holland stopped Raheem Mostert for a loss on a running play. Tua underthrew Tyreek on a play that Ethan Bonner was in coverage on. Tua hit Tyreek for about 45 yards on a long pass. Tyreek hit a diving catch to the ground. Tua to Tyreek for about 17 or 18 yards. Do you get the hint here that Tua and Tyreek are kind of turning into Marino and Clayton here with a connection? They, yes, sometimes it's an underthrow. Sometimes the pass is broken up by the defender. More times than not, Tua to Tyreek is a completion. Tua to Tyreek for about 17 or 18 yards. Tua hit Tyreek for about 50 yards. David Long, he had a pass breakup on one play. Kader Kohu intercepted Tua in the end zone, but when he landed, he was slightly out of bounds, so the interception would not have counted. Tua hit River Craycraft for about 20 yards. Jason Mateer, he broke up a pass thrown by Tua. Tua hit Braxton Berrios for a long gain. That bad practice Tua had over the weekend, yeah, that's in the rearview mirror. He was on fire again today, and back to the guy who has been on fire pretty much this entire camp, minus 1 day. Skylar Thompson hit Braylon Sanders on a beautiful pass where Sanders had to extend his arms and really stretch out to make the catch. Jason Mateer had a pass breakup in the end zone. Mike White hit Braxton Berrios for about 10 yards. Jaquan Burton caught 2 passes from Skylar Thompson in a red zone drill. Malik Washington caught a 10-yard pass from Skylar Thompson. Anthony Schwartz dropped a Mike White pass. Channing Tyndall dropped an easy interception. Shocking. And to wind up here, Mike White hit Braxton Berrios for about 15 yards. Mike White hit Jody Fortson, who had a very good practice today from everyone who was there, for a touchdown. Skylar Thompson ran a nice 2-minute drill sort of near the end of practice. And Tier Tart did have a sack on Tua, one of the few plays he's made thus far in training camp. Brandon Peely also had a sack. And rookie undrafted tight end Hayden Rucci caught a 12-yard pass or so from Skylar Thompson, roughly 12 yards. So that is the Miami Dolphins Monday training camp report. Again, the defense is ahead of the offense. We're really going to get a good gauge here when they practice with the Atlanta Falcons later this week. I don't care about the preseason game. Preseason games are whatever. The joint practices where, teams have more control over the situations. We're going to see how Chop Robinson really is when lining up against someone else. We're going to see how Mohamed Kamara is. We're going to see if Quentin Bell can continue to play well versus other offensive linemen. We're going to see how Mike White, Skylar Thompson look versus Atlanta. We're going to see how the Dolphins integrate some tight ends in these practices when they go up against Atlanta. Not that they're going to show their full offense or anything, but, when you're going up against the same guys, we know Miami's offensive line is like the weak spot. So when you hear Chop Robinson got a easy run to the quarterback or Quentin Bell's on fire every day, that's great to hear, but you often wonder, is it because their offensive line is so bad for Miami, and how would they look against other players? Well, end of this week, we're going to find out as they're going to line up against other players, and we'll see how they look on offense and how they look on defense and get a little bit of a gauge of where the team is right now in early August. Again, early August, you don't want to hit the panic button on any of these things. And a lot of these notes are just for, tidbits and information only for those of you who aren't there or those of you who can't keep up with everything on social media. I just like to give it to you in a condensed form. Just here's a bunch of plays. Here's who's playing well. Here's who not. I think right now through the first, 10 practice. I think this was the 10th practice today. The guys who are playing well in training camp, Quentin Bell obviously is standing out. Chop Robinson has been standing out. I think Ethan Bonner has been standing out too at safety. He's been playing really well. On offense, Tua has been fantastic, which you hope for all the money they're paying him. Tyreek, again, for all the money they're paying him, he's been fantastic. So a lot of positive things there. Achane's looked really, really good as well. So, there's been guys who played well. Then there's been some guys who have struggled a bit. Aaron Brewer has struggled. I would say Jaylen Wright, I don't want to say he struggled because he's a rookie. It's kind of unfair, but, he's got a little bit of work to do if he wants to get playing time when the regular season comes. And, there's been some others. Tier Tart has struggled a little bit. So there's been some guys who haven't played as well. Anthony Schwartz dropped a few passes today. He's going to have to pick it up a little bit if he wants to beat out, someone like a River Craycraft or a Braxton Berries to win a spot. So, yeah, there's been some guys who have come out of the gate hot, some guys who are taking a little bit longer to get probably to where they need to be. And we'll see where things go. But that's the Miami Dolphins training camp practice report for Monday. They'll be back on the field again tomorrow. We got Dolphins football game later this week on Friday versus Atlanta. It's going to be really cool. Tom and myself will be on live with a post-game wrap-up show for sure. Again, Dolphins Talk Extra, our Patreon service. Go to patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. We got 2 tiers, a $3 tier and a $5 tier. And like I said, happy hour shows, interactive shows where you can join Josh, myself, and Aaron on live podcasts we're going to do, where you can join us live on the podcast. We'll answer your questions, talk Miami Dolphins football, talk non-Miami Dolphins stuff. It's going to be fun. We got Fantasy Football League Survivor Pools, and what was the other one? Survivor Pools, Fantasy Football, and Pick'em League that if you're signed up, you will automatically be entered to. You can win cool prizes like FOCO, Miami Dolphins bobblehead dolls, and some other cool stuff like that. We have a message board, so sending us a tweet sometimes it's tough for us to respond to everybody. On the message board, we'll be able to respond to everybody. We'll be able to see it. You can interact with us there. And some other cool tidbits in the works, watch-alongs in games where you can join me on a chat here in a game, share your thoughts as the real games are going on in the regular season. So Dolphins Talk Extra, our Patreon service. Again, find a link on our social media channels. I have it up on there. And if you really can't find the link, you can always email me at dolphinstalk1977@gmail.com. The free shows aren't going away. What you're listening to right now will be here each and every day. Josh and Aaron will be here on their shows for free. Tom, myself, and Ian, the free stuff. Marissa, Jason, the free stuff ain't going nowhere. This is extra content, bonus content, interactive content for a couple bucks a month. Not life-changing money we're charging here because we do care about you and just to have some fun and join us behind a little bit of a paywall and do some new stuff that won't be out there for everybody. Be sure to check out the website, DolphinsTalk.com. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at Dolphins Talk. And wherever you're listening to this podcast, hit that subscribe button right now. And if you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button. Everyone have a great Monday and a great start to your week. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. And folks, don't forget, we must put an end to highway profanity.